Hello and welcome to another Looking at Stuff ASMR video. Hello. So today, what do I want to talk about? I got a lot of comments that people really liked my ye-old internet stories. So, from the good old days when Al Gore first invented the internet. That's right. So, I'm going to try do some more. The problem is, that's supposed to be a brain. I guess add a spine, make it more realistic. I do not remember the stuff that I covered in the last, like 3 Internet Stories videos. I kind of glanced at stuff I've jotted down in these pages to jog my memory, but there is a possibility that I'm going to cover familiar territory. So if that happens, I apologize. Also, look at these cool things I found. Dug these up. These are like, I don't know if there's a year on them. It says real fruit juice, vrai jus de fruits, and it is these candies are about, I don't know, 25 years old, I want to say. But anyway, managed to find them. I also have some Simpsons ones, and they are not within arm's reach apparently. So, otherwise, I would be glad to show one. Actually, was kind of hoping that's what was nearby, but it's not. Okay, well, I'm getting distracted. Alright, so internet story number 1. So, what did most people do on the internet back in like the, I don't know, the early days, like 96 to like 2000? This is a period I consider really the early days of the internet, because when you get beyond 2000, you're starting to get those megabyte speeds. But this period, like my dial-up in Gaspé, Quebec, my dial-up speed was, okay, so they say it's 56K, right? That was the standard dial-up speed. There was also 28, was, the older one. I never had 28. By the time I got to Gaspé, it was 56. But can you even see that? I feel like it's not focusing. Okay. So, yeah, that was all this time you've been looking at Blur. You know what? That was a reference to the very popular 90s bands, Blur, with Blur song number 2. Anyway, so, yeah, so 56K, that's pretty standard at the time. You'd get on your Napster with 56K, you get on your ICQ with 56K, you'd download Gillian Anderson pictures with 56K, but well, you'd really struggle if you had to download a video, or heaven forbid you had to download some software update like Netscape Navigator, right? You had Internet Explorer. Well, that's no good. So what you want is Netscape, which was you had like a horizon with the big N, and it's supposed to be navigating, right? Stars, I think. That was the logo. And if you were on IE, you wanted Netscape Navigator. That was the Firefox or the Chrome at the time. And technically, Mozilla Firefox is the heir to Netscape Navigator, because I believe Netscape was, I don't really follow internet companies too much. I'm not interested in business news, but I believe Mozilla at some point owned Navigator and development on it. So anyway, with where was I going with this? Yes, 56K. So, with 56K, what you actually got while downloading a song from Napster, because Napster would tell you, I don't know if I can do it justice, but Napster's screen looks something like this. It was a rectangle, go figure. But anyway, so you had like, I think here you had some, trying to remember exactly, it's been a long time, but here you had different, here you had, I think, what you were sharing, your file folders and such, and down here you had various other people who shared stuff that you were maybe favorited or whatever. Then you had like a search bar where you searched for whatever you wanted, and then here you had all your results, and you could choose one to download. And trying to think, where did they put your current downloads? I want to say it was like right here as well. And then maybe you could click something here and see all of your downloads. I don't know. It's been a long time. I'm doing a terrible job of this. But the idea was, right, you'd search and you'd see. It would gradually go through the sort of indexed libraries of the shared files that other people chose to share, and give you the results. And the results would populate gradually as it went through all the people signed in. And the better their connection, I guess the quicker those indexed results came through. And then you'd see on the side of the file how fast the person who uploads it will be uploading it to you. So you got an idea of, so that it was a little different, right? Like if you came a little later in history and you remember a product called eMule, that was different. It was based on the Napster model, but where Napster was kind of one-to-one peer sharing, eMule was a little different, where it was like many to one or one to many, I don't know. Where if you were downloading something from eMule, say, I don't know, you were downloading Harry Potter, the movie, you were pirating the first Harry Potter movie, then there could be 200 people with that exact file all sharing it at the same time. And you're downloading it, you could be collecting it piece by piece from like 200 people or several people at once, and it would come in faster that way, whereas Napster, as I remember it, was one-to-one. So you'd find someone, their songs, whatever MP3s they have, are all listed, and usually you'd search for a specific song and then you'd download that one. But if you found someone who had stuff you liked, you could right-click and see their full library and just start downloading from them, especially if they had a good speed. And it would show their average download speed on the side. And so, some of them would be like, some of these people at this time were on like T3 lines or something, so they would be uploading and downloading really fast, but most people at the time were on dial-up 56K. But you'd think, oh well, then you're downloading at 56 kilobytes per second, right? No. Most of the time, songs were downloading at 5 kilobytes per second, and that is, if you're lucky, chump. Yeah, 5 kilobytes per second was good. That was when you found someone who offered at a really good speed. But most of the time, averaging around 2 kilobytes per second. So if you're downloading, say, a 2 megabyte song, right? And most of them were bigger, but let's say it's a short song or low quality 2 megabytes, and you're getting 2 kilobytes per second. So what you're getting here is the equivalent of, right? Well, what it's going to take, right? 1,000. It's going to take 1,000 seconds. And, man, whatever that is. So, you know, it would take a few minutes, right? It would take, it would take more than 10 minutes to download a 2 megabyte song. So, right? 660 times 10 is 600. So we're looking at something like 15 minutes. A little more, actually. Yeah. So yeah, that was 56K. And that was true not just on Napster. I don't know why I chose Napster in particular, just how I remembered it, but anytime you downloaded something on Navigator or Internet Explorer, right, it would show you what your average download speed was. And if you're really lucky, you'd see it coming in at 5 KB. But then, whereas when you download something today, it stays pretty consistent, downloads fast, but back then it would be at 5K. And then as you watched it, you'd see it gradually sinking and sinking down, and then it would be coming in at 1 KB per second. And then sometimes it would drop to 600 bytes. You'd be like, no, go back up. And then suddenly it would go back up to 5 KB per second. You're like, please stay there. And then it would drop down to 400 bytes per second, and then it would drop down to 0, and then suddenly your download would stop. And you'd have to, you'd be 10 minutes in, and you'd have to go and start this download over from scratch. And so there started to be programs that were developed that would help you resume broken downloads. I don't know if that software exists anymore, or if it's even needed anymore, but at the time, it definitely was needed. If you wanted to download anything that was like 100 megabytes, and you're getting 5 KB per second, and something, someone decides they're going to call you, right? If you're on one phone line with dial-up, that line goes to, right, your computer, your desktop computer, and there you are downloading stuff. But then the same line goes to trying to do like a princess phone, but I don't know, nobody had princess phones then. So I just did a really bad phone. Let's see, what did the phones actually look like then? They pretty much look like standard business phones. But anyway, the point is, this is supposed to be your mom's phone. And if someone calls to speak to the phone, well, it's using that person calling in is using that one line, and so this connection gets terminated so that phone can ring. So you're here trying to download something that you're like 50 megabytes into a 100 megabyte download. It's taking you 2 hours. Connection's cut off. You lose that download. So with these programs, you'd be able to resume that download from the 50 meg point. Anyway, so I don't even remember what my point was here, but anyway, we're all on dial-up in my hometown, and oh yeah, that's the point. The point was from 96 to 2000, this was the period I consider early internet. Of course, there's stuff on the internet back in 94 as well, 95. You can find some political websites, I think the Dole, the Bob Dole campaign website from 94 still exists. Or was it 96? I don't know. But, and I remember I actually had a magazine. They used to sell magazines with cool websites in them, and you'd flip through and it was just like, an actual printed directory of URLs with descriptions of what was on this website, because there were so few really websites at the time that you could just print a list of them for people to go find them. And also because there really weren't many other ways to go find them. You could go to Yahoo and search, I guess. I mean, this was still the age of, there were still search engines. There was Yahoo, Excite, Lycos, Alta Vista, web crawler. I don't know. Those are just a few I remember. And yeah, there were search engines. They were all, Yahoo is directory based. I don't remember the others, exactly how they did it. But by directory based, I mean it was curated, right? They had you could actually sign up to be an expert for particular sections of Yahoo's directory. So like the astrophysics websites in the science section of Yahoo had to be curated. And in order to curate the astrophysics websites that were within Yahoo's database, you had to prove your credentials as someone qualified to curate astrophysics websites. So you would have to show them that you have a PhD in astrophysics and have some publications to your name, and then they would decide whether you are fit to curate these websites. So it was directory based, but it was curated directories. And I remember when I was like 13 or so, I applied to curate, I think their UFO websites, and of course I got, no response because I had absolutely no credentials whatsoever. But they would have like sort of not ads but notices letting people know which sections were still in need of curators. I don't know the websites that didn't, or the sections that didn't have curators. I'm not really sure how they maintain quality. I guess maybe a Yahoo admin just stood in. So this period, to me, is early internet, because after this period, I think the high-speed internet became a lot more common, and things started to change. As I remember it, a lot more people were on the internet and using things like, instead of like eMule, they'd use LimeWire and stuff, and they were downloading whole movies, and it was just, and then of course things went into MySpace and we got Web 2.0, but there was this transitional period where everyone and their dog was using the internet to exploit it. The glory days were around here for me, and the golden age, I think. And I want to talk about my first experience on the internet in those days, and that was, we had, in my elementary school, so this would have been in 96, or even 95, 96, and my first experience really was, they brought us all down from class in 95 to the computer room, and I remember how it looked. You walk into the room, this is kind of the floor plan. You have, like any room, it's a rectangle, but you walk in, you have just kind of an empty desk here, and then computer stalls all along here. And these are all Windows 95 machines here. Then over here, they have a computer, the old computers that I think I don't even remember what they were running. I'm gonna say Windows 3.4, was it? I don't know. But generally, if you wanted to do anything on these computers, you brought your floppy disk with you, and it was the big floppy disk, one that kind of had the thing, as opposed to the little floppy disk with the. Anyway, so, and then in the middle they had this other computer. They had like a fancy printer and their best computer, and this was used by the school's administrator. And she had another computer up here that she used for stuff as well, or I think this computer used to be here, one of the two. Her name was Mrs. Turf. She was a very nice lady. Most students made fun of her for some reason, said she smelled bad, but she used to lend me books. I thought she was really nice. Anyway, so the whole class was brought down, and we were led over here, and Mrs. Turf was sitting at this computer, and she said, "I'm going to show you email." And she said, went through this whole spiel about email stands for electronic mail, and what I'm doing right now is sending off a letter to someone in this place, and here you can see where someone sent me mail back, and of course all I was seeing was a bunch of white text on a blue screen, and white text on a blue screen was not very impressive to me. I didn't really understand what was meant by mail, because there was no stamp. How was this mail? I don't know, and I just did not grasp the whole concept of how this was happening, or what was really happening, and what was the content of the mail. Why were you sending it? What was achieved by this that you couldn't have achieved over a telephone, or things like that. I was just very confused about the whole process and how two computers could talk, and I don't know if she actually explained, and I was just not paying attention. But I feel like there were a lot of gaps here, and instead of asking those questions, I kept quiet. And anyway, of course, it wasn't long before I figured out what email really is, but at the time, I was very confused. And then by 96, this fancy computer was here, and you were able to sign up to play on the internet. So 95, only Miss Turf or teachers could get on the internet. By 96, students were allowed to get on there, usually under some sort of supervision, but few of us were in the gifted class, and do not make too much of that. By no means were we geniuses. We just got good enough grades that they didn't know what to do with us, because they didn't believe in skipping. So during certain classes, like English, instead of reading the same stories as other students, we'd just be allowed to go play in the computer room, and we got the opportunity to play on this computer one time. So we thought, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to get on a chat room. I've heard of chat rooms. I heard about it on the TV, and so we did a search for chat room, and we got on the first chat room that appeared in the Yahoo search results. I have no idea what that chat room was, but I remember it was dedicated to teens, and we joined as, I asked my friends, who should we join as? Of course, just being ourselves never occurred to us, so we thought, who's popular right now? None other than Jonathan Taylor Thomas. If you do not know who that is, that's understandable. He was kind of a heartthrob in the mid-90s. He was in some Santa Claus themed movie. And of course, Home Improvement was his big thing. He was the middle kid in the Home Improvement sitcom, Tim Allen's sitcom. He did some other stuff, I don't know. Tween girls liked him at the time. So we went to, that's who he claimed to be. And we talked to someone who apparently was a girl. And we told her, we're Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And she said, no, you're not. And we said, yeah, we are. Look, and she said, well, where are you? And we, instead of lying, we said, we're in Quebec. So she's like, why? And then we made up some story about having family there. And, maybe it was a Quebec teen chat room we were in. I don't know why. But anyway, we went with it, and we spent, our entire time trying to convince this girl that we were Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and then finally we were like, you got us, we're not. And that was the end of it. But this was one of the funnest things to do on the internet in this glory period, which was pretending to be someone you're not. I'm not really sure why, but that was one of the most common things to do on the internet in this small period. It wasn't the same as catfishing today, right? When you see this show Catfish, these people are you're really ruining lives in a way, sometimes, by suckering people into months-long relationships, and then finally it's not who they claim to be. But these sorts of pretending to be someone else, and I'm sure there was some of that at the time, but there was also a lot of it was just pretending to be someone else for a few hours, and then you never see this person again. Especially a lot of these web-based chat rooms. A very common one was called Hotel Chat. Actually, I don't know if it was common, but it was a very good one called Hotel Chat, and it was owned by a company called Magma, and I believe they're actually an ISP, or they were, I think, based somewhere in Ontario. I think maybe Vancouver. I like Toronto or Vancouver. I don't know, something like that. Or I'm pretty sure they were Canadian. And they created this script that would do chat rooms, and this proprietary script. They did license it out, but they ran their own site called Hotel Chat, and they had all these various rooms in the hotel that you could join, like the hot tub and the elevator, the courtyard, the lobby, of course the lobby, the courtyard, I think. There's a dungeon, I want to say, for adult stuff, and you could just, and I believe there may have even been some private rooms available, and you could just go into these rooms and just talk to whoever was in there, and you make up a name on the fly, so you could come back, the next day, and none of the people you're talking to were there. Everyone's just gone, right? It was very ephemeral, so it could be very silly. So with Hotel Chat, my friends and I would join and just kind of, I guess you'd say, troll people, but not in a super negative way. We weren't really interested in hurting people or being cruel. It was more just being silly or pretending to be someone. I remember one time my cousin Jason was visiting, and we joined Hotel Chat and pretended to be a woman. And whenever someone would ask what we were looking for, we'd say we're looking for some hot chocolate. And I'm yeah, got distracted there for a moment. So hot chocolate was looking for a black guy, I guess. And then another time with another friend, we went on there and kept telling people, looking for you in all the wrong places. Which, I don't know, for some reason really cracked me up. And I introduced a friend of my mother's to the website, a hotel chat, and she started visiting and asking us to use the internet. So she would come over ostensibly to see my mom, but then she would just go up on my computer and sit on hotel chat and chat with dudes. And because I typed really fast, she would have me type for her at first, and then when things were starting to head in a raunchy direction, she'd tell me to take a hike and take over. And then finally it got pretty awkward. So we, she decided to get her own internet connection, which was good, because at the time, you'd pay, when we first got the internet, it was hour-based, not data-based. So you'd have 10 hours of internet per month. And then for each hour you went over, you paid $1. So, when my mom first saw the $60 bill, she was not happy. But then, not long after, they came out with a package where you got like 40 hours per month, and I agreed to keep to that. And then later it wasn't hour based at all, right? But yeah, let's see. That was hotel chat. Then there was, of course, IRC. And not sure if I ever mentioned this in my previous internet videos, but I was introduced to IRC by a guy I met on ICQ. His name he went by Boss, but his real name was James Pearson, I want to say. It's been a long time, but he was an artist, and he never really showed me his art. I forget exactly how I found him, but he never showed me his art. He just talked about being an artist, and we were chatting and getting along, and he said, hey, go download this program called Merc. And I had never heard of IRC. This was in 97. And I said, okay, fine, I'll download it. And then he said, alright, now you need to give it, it's a chat application, you need to give it a server. And IRC still exists, by the way. It's like, if you don't know what it is, let me go over here. If you don't know what IRC is, the closest equivalent today that isn't IRC is Discord. It's like early Discord. And anyway, and Merc was one of the main applications for running IRC. And with Merc you connect to a server, and and the servers were a host server, I guess you'd say. The host servers were hosts of various networks, IRC networks, and some of the most popular ones, famous ones, were Dalnet, Efnet. There's another one that was really popular at the time. I forget what it was called. But these were your two biggest ones, Dalnet and Efnet, if I remember right. And then, but I didn't know that at the time. He said, so you're going to give it a host server to get on a particular network, and that network is Yiffnet. And he gave me the server to get on there, and sure enough, I joined Yiffnet, and he started introducing me to his friends on the main chat there, which was, I forget the name of the room, but I'm gonna say at Yiff. I don't know. Maybe it was at Furry. Now, I'm kind of giving, if you haven't gotten it yet, Yiffnet is a furry themed chat server. It is entirely dedicated to furry roleplay. Yiffnet, I believe, still exists, still serves its purpose. At the time, I had never heard of a furry. I was 12 or 13 years old, and I joined this chat room, and I started talking to these people, and I remember some of their names. Desan, he claimed to be a Chow. Bobby, I don't remember much about Bobby other than that he claimed to have a quite of hair. So when he would do his smiley face, he would have like a little comma or something in there. Who else? Fennec, whose real name was David. Fox Magic. Eek. I think that's everyone I remember. But there's someone else with like white something in their name. But there were all these people, and I did not know anything about furry subculture. I didn't know that they were role-playing. This guy, James, who went by Boss, just brought me here and said, "Hey, here are some of my friends, talk to them." And he introduced me to some of them. He introduced me to Fox Magic in particular. And I remember this guy, Fox Magic, asking me to tell him about myself, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I look like. Blah blah blah." And he kept saying, or typing, I should say, "Human." And I thought, wow, he's really impressed by these really, unimpressive facts. And everything I would tell him about myself, he would reply with. So, yeah, he kept saying "human" to everything I said about myself. And finally, he got really annoyed. He said, "This is just human. Stop telling me this stuff." And I'm like, I don't understand. And he said I was really rude or something. And I was confused, and I realized what he meant by human was human. And he didn't want to know anything about who I was as a person. He wanted to know about my furry character. But I did not have a furry character, so I could tell him nothing about my furry character. And that was my introduction to the furries. I will say pretty much everyone but Fox Magic was very nice. They did not give me a hard time about not actually being furry, and they were also not in any way weird or perverts or anything like that, right? They just enjoyed this little role play that they did with each other, and that was about it. And so the point is, the furries introduced me to IRC, which was another chat platform that was better than web-based chat rooms at the time. And after I left Yiffnet, I went to either Dalnet or Efnet, and I started exploring all the other rooms that were available. And I started looking in different rooms like, vampire chat or something. I forget how they named the rooms, but it was like, I think it was at vampire or at gothic. And they would just call it like Efnet Gothic or something, Dalnet Gothic. But and then I was like, well, I'm looking at vampire and gothic, dark stuff. I might as well branch out, and I went to like I think at Christian Teens, something like that. I started talking to people there, and I found this one girl who was, I forget her name, I'm gonna call her Barbie. But it was something like that. And she seemed really nice at first, and she wanted to add me to her ICQ. And then she started telling me about how she was really interested in this other guy that she went to school with or something. Or, I don't know, maybe she just knew him online. And when she was getting attention from this guy, she started being super rude to me, treated me like garbage. And by this point, we'd been talking for a bit. I thought she was cool, and then she clearly was not. And so I kind of stopped talking to her for a bit, and then she messaged me and said, "Hey, can you join? You come back to the IRC and talk to me for a moment." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And she started saying, and then she told me, well, she started being really nice to me, and I didn't really understand what was going on, why she was suddenly being nice to me. And then she said, "Oh yeah, things didn't work out with this guy." And then suddenly it became very clear. She's like, "I'm sorry, I took you for granted." And so I told her something like, just get the hell away from me, or I don't give a damn what you think. It was like a very soft bit of profanity. And she said, "Don't you ever cuss." Like, first of all, I assume that she misspelled curse, because nobody in my hometown ever used the word cuss. In fact, I'd never heard it before. It sounded extremely backwoods. So I said, "I'm not sure what cussing is, but I didn't do it." And she said, "Yes, you did." And then I told her that I just used all like the worst words I could think of against her, and never spoke to her again. I was only 13, so not exactly a big deal. A big deal, but also not the most mature thing to do. But I was not mature. But anyway, that was what would happen when you didn't pretend to be other people in chat rooms. I think I had a lot more fun in chat rooms when I pretended to be Jonathan Taylor Thomas, or someone looking for hot chocolate. So that, I think we're 42 minutes in. That is quite enough old internet stories for today. I think I probably repeated a few things in here. If I did, I'm sorry, but I think you should, do I have a like and subscribe thing already written out? That'd be nice. There's one of my other early internet story things. Hey, here we go. This is professionalism of the highest order. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and keep on looking at stuff. Thanks for watching and listening. And just one quick final thing to add. See this flying guy? He actually comes from a set called Best Bugs. And I don't think I've heard anybody talk about Best Bugs ever. But it was a bucket that I saw at Zellers, like a big box store in Canada, when I was, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. I'm gonna say 9. And it was around Christmas, and it was just there at Zellers, and it just said Best Bugs on it. I'm like, That's amazing. It's a whole bucket full of bugs. Not just bugs, the best bugs. So I begged my mom, please, please get me the best bugs. And I was so I knew she was gonna get it for me for Christmas. She had to, because I wanted it so much. And by the time it came for Christmas, I went through all the presents and finally got to the bucket, the one that I knew was best bugs. And I was so excited. I brought that bucket of bugs with me everywhere for like the rest of the Christmas holidays. And after that, they kind of just got scattered everywhere. And I would try to do pranks with them where I made people think I had captured a real bug in a container or something. And I'd like pretend it escaped and throw it at them. And anyway, there were spiders and flies and other crickets or grasshoppers in there, all sorts of things. But out of all of the best bugs, I think this is the only one that I still have. It's this big fly. So, anyway, there you go. Best bugs bonus story.